News wise here, most of it's going to be just DC stuff here. A lot of announcements they made that they basically talked about there. They set up their plan. I don't think there was any type of convention or anything like that that DC or Warner
I think
Brothers
it was
did.
just like they invited some press and
Okay.
then had like a very small little event and they just kind of talked to him.
Okay. So one of the things they announced here is that DC has set a goal to release 7 projects a year. That's one of the things here. So it's going to be 2 live-action films, 1 animated film, 2 live-action shows, 2 animated series. There's a plan to set for the next. There's a plan set for the next 6 years. I messaged you about this, saying it is it too much? You said yes. Yeah, it's just too much.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a lot. I mean, even Marvel kind of when it started to kind of produce too much too quickly, it was after many years of just enough that it became like the most popular brand in the world and the most successful box office in the world. DC's not even trying to kind of just let a few things do well before they start doing overload. Now, you know, it's possible that these things feel separated, when they're actually coming out, like, maybe some of these animated things feel so separate and like such completely unrelated things that it doesn't feel like the DCU is putting out 7 things a year. And so that's potentially a positive you could take out of this is maybe it's not all gonna feel like overload because some of this stuff is like on TV for young kids, and you're not watching this to watch the DC movie universe anyway. Um, but it feels like a lot. It feels like a lot, and I want DC to be able to get into a positive place and turn things around and you know uh get things back together. I mean, for in a way that I don't think DC ever has as a like larger brand, the way that Marvel was able to for a while. Um, and yeah, I'm worried. I up until now I hadn't really been too concerned. This whole time I've kind of been like, yeah, I trust James Gunn. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. Seems like he kind of knows what he's doing. This is the first thing or first major piece of news that has made me kind of go back and go like, okay, I'm back to being a little more skeptical again.
Mm. And did you also hear? So this was also another thing here that discussing film here. Great account there on Twitter. They're very reliable, I would say.
Lots of good
They
news.
Lots of good news there. The following DC projects have had problems in development here. It says Waller still haven't cracked the scripts. I didn't know they were making a Amanda Waller TV
Mm.
series. I didn't know that yet. Booster Gold showrunner almost joined, but lost interest. The Authority, the script had a harder time coming along. This is being reported by the Hollywood Reporter here. So it says DC Studios slate evolution. Some projects put on back burner as others are full steam ahead there. Could be also the sign there is just like maybe just, at least they're not rushing it. Maybe they're just trying to figure things out. There's nothing wrong with that. Things in development and things just kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do with those.
That's
Um,
what I take from it. I think it just feels like, hey, we're not happy with the scripts or the staff that we have on these, or the staff isn't complete yet. So yeah, we're pushing them back and we're not making them until we feel like they're ready. That is to me a positive, if anything, because it just is to me it's a sign that they're like, yeah, something's not ready. We're not going to make it anyway. Um, so I don't know. I actually I don't see how you could perceive that as a negative.
mm,
Maybe you just feel like they're struggling to put but then clearly there's so many other things they're announcing that are moving forward that they must have been happy with the scripts for. So I don't think it's a problem of, oh, they can't get anything together. It's just that they can't get these things together yet. And
yeah,
yeah, like I said, I think just pushing them back if you aren't certain I think that's a good thing.
yeah. 7 projects a year, I guess, sounds a lot to, maybe us maybe me in particular, because I have to watch all these things and review them, and I know that was the issue with Captain America: Brave New World. Is people coming into this like there was that Kojima tweet that's going viral right now of him talking about like, wait, when did Sam become Captain America? Did I miss something? Like, wait, what happened? And it's like, okay, now the Marvel universe has come to a point where you got to watch four of the movies, and then you got to watch the TV shows, and then you also have to think about the average person who's just coming off the street who just wants to see a new Marvel movie and doesn't want to have all to do all this
It's
homework.
like you're not allowed.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, this is the 35th Marvel film in the whole
Yeah.
universe. So it's like, damn, I mean, it's pretty lengthy to get into these now. I don't know if even you can pluck somebody from just the audience who's just like, "Oh, this looks fun. Maybe I just want to go see it." Maybe if it's with characters that you just haven't seen before, like Eternals or something like that, maybe you could do that.
I don't think they'll be happy with that experience either, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, if it's a good one, maybe if it's a good
Right.
one of those there, maybe you can kinda do a newer character that you just in so it's kind of like, okay, you're introducing it to newer people and then also to MCU people as well. So, I mean, but 2 live action movies a year, that's not too bad instead of like 3 or
No, that
4.
seems reasonable.
Now I don't know how much, because like I think James Gunn said like all this stuff is supposed to connect. Like people
Right.
who voice act in the animated show is also supposed to play these people in live action. So that means that the stories that happen in these things are supposed to also carry over to the movies and everything like that.
One other thing he said too, though, is that they are keeping the idea of Elseworlds on the table, which is just anything that is like not the main continuity or not the main universe. So I'd be willing to bet that a decent, like some of the specific announcements, like some of the specific, at least one of the specific animated shows that they announced today, like that is definitely not taking place in the main continuity, like for sure,
Okay.
like
So you have
100%.
this animated show that got announced here. So Superpowers. So it says a new animated Superpowers is in the works at DC. The series follows new students Lightning, Flash, Plastic Man, Aquagirl, Green Lantern, and Terra learning at a school headed by Principal Martian Manhunter.
That does not sound like it's going to be the main universe to me. That sounds like a kids show that they're doing. That is its own separate thing. Um,
Okay.
it doesn't sound particularly interesting to me, but sometimes they can just make some stuff for kids, and it doesn't need to be appealing to me, and that's okay.
Yeah. So you think that's more like kiddie, like more
That's
younger?
what it sounds like. I mean, come on, Principal Martian Manhunter. Like, what are we?
He's giving detention to Aquagirl and shit like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Um,
I mean, maybe he's trying to change his image. He spent the last however many years secretly sleeping with Superman's dad. I was trying to kind of turn over a new leaf.
you also had another animated show that was announced. It was called My Adventures with Green Lantern. The
And that's
series.
almost definitely got to take place in that continuity with the My Adventures with Superman show, right? Like that's got to be why it's titled that way. So that also is not taking place. That also cannot be taking place within the main continuity.
Yeah. So it says the series follows Jessica Cruz, who has her life upended when a Green Lantern power ring falls from the sky. Are you familiar with Jessica Cruz?
Yeah, yeah, I think she's a great character. She came in kind of right near the end of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run in like, God, what year was that? 2013, 2014. Kind of introduced closely to the Simon Boz character. And then once Jeff Johns' run had wrapped up, um, they did a great run actually. That was Simon and Jessica. That was a bit more of a terrestrial story. And then one way yet again, another way I know that this cartoon can't be the main continuity is this character is an adult woman that's like saw someone get murdered and then has like an extreme anxiety disorder for like a
Mm.
year and doesn't leave her apartment until she gets the ring for the first time. And it's like this thing that kind of forces her to go outside and confront this internal like just anxiety and fear that she has. And this is like this cartoon description also mentions somewhere in there, maybe it's not on that page, but it also mentioned her being like a high school student. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this isn't like a straight up adaptation of this character in like a serious DC universe sense. It like this is more of a kids show yet again. Now, My
Okay.
Adventures with Superman, I think, is maybe more preteen or teen targeted, maybe than like little kid, but this at least for sure sounds like a that sort of age group kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, this says the anime series follow a high school student. Yeah, Jessica Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got that. Okay. So you got that. So that was one of the things they announced there. So you got a lot of Green Lantern stuff because they got the live action show coming out. Um, oh, you got the Green Lantern ring there. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Um, so then they also announced a Starfire animated series there. Says the series will serve as an origin story for the character.
Yeah,
Um,
this one I was less clear on whether it was Elseworlds or if it was supposed to be part of the kind of main thing. Um, I couldn't I couldn't necessarily tell with this one, but so far, Creature Commandos has been the only thing animated show that's been announced as part of the larger continuity. So, like, the fact that it has the DC Studios label on there and it looks like the other ones don't might be a signal that this one is part of the main continuity.
It says, lastly, Starfire will focus on the popular Teen Titans character. Josie Campbell is executive producing, while Brianna Dorard serves as co-executive producer. Okay, the show follows her adventures after she uses an ancient spaceship she discovers on her home planet of Marin to escape her planet and explore the stars. The description reads, along the way, she'll meet up with space biker Crush, uh, Space Biker Crush, Plant Loving Fern, and the magical princess Amethyst of Gimorel
Oh,
there.
oh,
Uh,
that's the character that I kept saying I think the princess in Creature Commandos was like going to turn out to be. So
oh,
maybe I must have been really off base with that.
and together they will uncover the deepest reaches of the DC universe, save dolphins and surf Technicolor nebulas, and
Okay.
boldly soar into the unknown. Okay, so she's kind of getting her own like Guardians of the Galaxy type thing going on. Uh,
Possibly. That one's interesting. That one I feel like I know Starfire so much mostly as a part of like the Teen Titans that I'm not super familiar with her having like solo stories necessarily or stories where she's like kind of centralized as like the lead character in that way. So that one I guess I don't have as much like background to kind of maybe glean details out of. But I mean, it sounds like it could be interesting. I guess time will tell if it's part of the main world or not. But at least a few of these seem to be not, DCU. So
Yeah, okay. Because like, when they said origin story, I was like, "Okay, I mean, what's really the origin story? I mean, she's just an alien, right? I mean, that's not really
yeah, yeah, she's just an alien.
like, it's not really
She
much
doesn't really.
origin
Yeah, I
there."
mean, I guess there's a little bit of a story with her sister and kind of a throne usurping thing with like the royal family on their home planet. I mean, you could do something with that. You could. It's not like a lot, but you could.
Yeah. Speaking of, Teen Titans, so James Gunn, it says here, confirms that a Teen Titans, movie is in the works. It says Anna Nagara, who's I guess doing also Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow,
Yeah.
uh, is also developing the script for it, as well.
I know he's talked about how much he loved that script for Supergirl. So if that turns out really good, then then we can maybe kind of relax and hope for that Teen Titans turns out well too. But I guess we got to see. I guess we got to see one of those projects first to get a feel for the next one.
Yeah.
And Teen Titans is one of those properties that I'd love to see brought to the big screen, though. I mean, out of all of the DC characters and different IP, I feel like Teen Titans has had some of the most mainstream appeal, and of course that's because of the animated series more than anything. But you'd almost think that they would try Teen Titans based stuff more, just because it's got that kind of recognition, maybe with a slightly more mainstream audience.
Yeah. As Teen Titans Go, that's still, on, right? Teen Titans Go?
Oh, the Go. I think so. I mean I haven't paid that much attention to it, but I'm even talking about like the like early mid 2000s Teen Titans show. I feel like that was big at the time.
Yeah, that was big. I remember watching that early 2000s there. They had, like, a fun fighting game that was on, the Adult Swim, like, or Cartoon Network website there they used to play.
Yeah, yeah. I
They
remember that. They did a console one at one point too, actually, and it had like a kind of Marvel Ultimate Alliance type gameplay.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one, yeah. But they shut that down. Yeah, they took all those things off. Yeah, all the Samurai Jack and all those good video games.
All of
Yeah.
them.
What did you ever think about this right here? Get your thoughts on it. Did you ever watch this show?
Oh God, the Titans. I did see some of it. This was one of my co-hosts watched a lot more of it than me, and I sat with him for some of it. But it was very much like bad movie night material. This was not this was not good. I didn't think this was good at all. Um, I can think of maybe one performance in the whole show where I was like, all right, this actor stands out as like actually being good in like a genuine way. But the rest of it was like
Who was
it was
that?
pretty cringy. It was actually if you remember Vincent Kartheiser, who played Angel's son in Angel, he was I forget the character's name, but he was a big part of the cast of Mad Men. He played Scarecrow on that
Oh,
show in like
okay.
one season, and there's some scenes in there with his character where you're like, oh damn, okay, now this guy's like actually bringing something that no one else is to this show. Um, Unfortunately, he was alone in that, but I can at least give it that one compliment.
I saw maybe like the first couple seasons of the show. I remember the one thing I liked about it was I thought the costumes looked pretty good. I thought.
Some of the costumes were actually not bad. Oh, and you
Yeah.
know what? I'll say the Hawk and Dove characters actually were not bad, and they were actually kind of decently done. Um, I don't really love the personalities they gave to like Robin or like the main Teen Titans, but some of those side characters could come in and be all right sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people talk about the trade, talking about fuck Batman and all that, like killing people. Well, this is edgy
Yeah,
Robin. This is,
yeah.
um,
It looks like a spinoff of the Snyderverse, which I mean was coming out at the same time that was big. So
but I mean, it would have worked if the Robin was Jason Todd. It would have worked maybe if it was him.
yeah, yeah, like as Red Hood post death, but like especially I mean, just seeing him one, it's Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson's not shooting people, right? The whole reason that Dick Grayson like has like a falling out with Batman and then leaves to go become Nightwing in the first place is because he thinks Batman takes things too far, and is like, man, you're taking it too far. You're hurting people too badly. Like you got to pull back. Like this is too brutal. So for him to be like fuck that man, and then just start murdering people. Spoilers for Titans if anybody does care, but let me just tell you that Bruce Wayne in this show actually does murder Joker and like cave his head in with a crowbar at one point.
Mm. Yeah, I know people saying that I didn't watch it up to that point where Sir Friendzone from Game of Thrones, he comes in
Sir
as
Friendzone.
the Batman there. I heard he's
He's
like
never in costume though.
never oh, okay, never okay.
It's like they weren't allowed to show him in costume and they weren't allowed to actually show the Joker. So he could only be in it as Bruce Wayne. And then you can see like the Joker from like the back. And they do the whole red, Jason Todd comes in as Robin and then he dies. But because they're not allowed to show Batman or Joker on screen, it's a real weird adaptation of the Red Hood story.
Mm, okay. So yeah, I didn't watch it up to that point. I don't know how long the show lasts, like a few seasons?
4 seasons, I think.
Okay.
Four,
That's a decent little run.
maybe five. But
Yeah, that's kind of a decent run.
it was not good though. I'm like sorry to anybody that's a fan out
Worse
there,
than
but
the CW show?
it just felt like one of them. It just felt like one of the CW shows, but with like slightly edgier like violence sometimes.
Yeah, because that I think that just streamed at first, I think wasn't it on, like, when they had the DC streaming service at
It
first?
was. It was one of those. And then yeah, migrated over to HBO afterwards. But yeah, I mean it always had the feeling of a CW show, just with a little less like ratings restrictions on it in terms of the teen kind of tween character romance dynamics that the show loved focusing on. Cheap looking sets, filming in like public locations, probably in Canada for the vast majority of every scene. I mean, yeah, it felt like another one of those shows. It was even like you remember how they had that like Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover
Yeah.
with the CW shows? Like 3 years later, the Teen Titans show or Titans show had a crossover episode that connected back to that. Like 3 years after that had happened on the CW, they were like, "All right, 3 years later, this is we're gonna I guess certainly not profit off of it, but like what we're just gonna try and maximize on that crossover potential, like way after the fact."
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I won't be going back to finish that, but
Oh,
yeah.
it's so not worth it.
uh,
I'm telling you, there's one of the seasons ends with them like injecting like Lazarus pit juice into the rain, so they just bring back everyone who's ever died, like ever in
see.
Gotham.
And so does it get more crazier than that Gotham show? Because I didn't finish that. I heard that got
No,
good.
I will say right now that I really came around to enjoying Gotham about in its third season, because it got so bad that it became just absurd, and it became very funny. There was like a whole long-standing like gay romance with Penguin and Riddler that like I mean it was just weird. It just got very goofy. It was funny. It was bad, but it was funny. This Titan show, for the most part, was more just boring. Like it might have had its moments where it was like kind of unintentionally funny, but I don't think it never
Mm,
got to that level. I mean, Gotham became like Nicolas Cage Wicker Man levels of ridiculous.
mm, okay. And then also there was an announcement there, so they clarify more like with the Batman, the Brave and the Bold. So they're going to do a movie there. So Peter Safran, who's also the co-head of DC there with James Gunn, he said that the Brave and the Bold is in active development, which will bring Dark Knight over to the DCU. So far, no actors attached to the project. That story's coming along together nicely. Safran teased. So you got that. So that story is going to be about Batman, and then he's going to have his son Damian Wayne, and it's going to be directed by Andy Muschietti, who directed your favorite movie. He directed The Flash.
Yeah. Worst movie of all time. But what's interesting is one of the things I saw today is that what I read was that they're actually not 100% about whether he's going to direct it or not. Once they finish the script, they're going to decide whether he's
Oh,
still directing it, which is interesting because maybe it's like, hey, he doesn't jive with the script once they get to that stage. But the thing is I don't blame the Flash on him. I think that was such a studio mess. I doubt he even really directed anything, to be honest, with that film. So I wouldn't judge him based on that. I might judge him based on the second It movie, but I'm not going to judge him too harshly based on Flash, just because I don't think he had much input on it. But they also, James Gunn, I also saw, didn't go out of his way to say that they have very firmly decided Robert Pattinson and the Matt Reeves verse for sure is not going to cross over with
okay.
the
I'm happy
main
about that.
main. No, I am too. I mean, I think there's an interesting thought experiment where it maybe could have been good either way if they just thought about it enough. But ultimately, I'm glad that it's going to be its own corner too, because I think it's so grounded and it's so realistic that I think it would be hard. And you can maybe do it again, if you had enough movies and enough story to kind of build up to it. But it would be hard to justify all the magic and sci-fi and superpowers then connecting to something that is so grounded. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So I know some people are a little disappointed in that with Batman. It's like because I know it's like teasing who's going to be the villain. It's like okay, if you're going to do maybe like, can you even do more fantastical villains like Mister Freeze or Clayface, which they're doing the Clayface movie there.
Right.
That's moving along also as well. Good people attached to that. Some good reports for that.
And that will be like main DC universe too.
Yeah. So you got that. So yeah, and then also James Gunn video game wise. So a lot of people video games aren't left out here. It says here, right here, this is from comicbook.com. This is the source. It says James Gunn says they've talked to NetherRealm and Rocksteady about developing more DC games. James Gunn also says he wants to do a DC Rivals. He also said that he wants to.
Ugh. Uh, no,
uh,
I don't want resources to be. I mean, look, I'm sure if they did designed it well, it might make money. But to be honest, I think the smarter thing, what the really smart thing would be, call up NetEase, call up the studio that made Marvel Rivals, and convince them and Marvel and Disney and whoever you need to just expand the roster of that game to include DC characters.
I mean, that's gonna be a
because
huge ass game though if you do that, right?
it would be a huge ass game. But here's my thing: is with you, it's like the whole thing of like all these live service games that come out and then fail because people already love 3 or 4 live service games, and then anything else just collapses on its own face because you can't get people's attention away. You have to make an amazing game. You have to make something that is very tightly designed to pull an audience away from the game that they're already playing when you're trying to compete in this live service market. And I just, with how successful Marvel Rivals is, and it took a long time for another thing to even be that. Like the last one that was this successful was Overwatch, the first one, 10 years ago. So if they try, they're going to fail. So I
Mm,
think it would be a smarter thing to try and just be like, hey, can we get in on and mix up with your game? Now I know Marvel DC crossover, that's like a lot of legal hassle and like that's a lot of loops to probably jump through to make that happen. But I genuinely think it would be less of a pain than spending $400 million on developing a DC rivals and then having it make no money and be a giant flop. So
um, interesting. What do you think? I mean, I don't know. What if they do like a Smash? They just do like a Smash Brothers, Marvel and DC.
I mean, I'd play it. I'd try it at least, but Multiverse is just flopped. Is it a live service game or are you doing an actual like you're doing it actually like Smash Bros where you buy the game and you get the whole game? Like
Yeah.
what route are they taking there? That's my biggest concern. I want for superhero characters, I want single player story driven games. I want you to take a character and design a gameplay system around their powers and how they work and dedicate a whole set of systems just to exploring that. Because every time they deviate from that and they try and do too many characters, and I mean, again, Marvel Rivals is very popular, but it's you end up with this thing where like you have to make all these characters play relatively similarly with like the same basic set of controls. So even if their powers are a little different, I don't know, you kind of end up with a lot of the sameness with how they play. Like, give me a Punisher game that is like a first person shooter, then give me a Hulk game that's like a big open world, you could destroy anything game. Then give me Daredevil, which is like a platformer action guy. Like, just give me different types of games. I want to see, or if we're going to DC, give me stuff that feels unique, that feels different, that you know it makes you feel like you are stepping into the shoes of a particular character in like a very deep connective way. That's why the Batman Arkham games are so successful, is because there's so many gameplay systems that are you don't see those in like any other game. They're totally unique to those games and were invented from the ground up just to make you feel like you are Batman while you're playing it.
Mm. So this article mentions here some games that have been rumored and that have been announced, but we haven't heard really anything in developments as of yet. There, so this article mentions a new Wonder Woman game is in the works, and we're still waiting for some other great DC characters to really get the superhero treatment. The Flash reportedly had a game canceled after the dismal performance of the character's recent live action film. Damn,
I
that
can
movie
understand that
Damn, that killed, damn, that killed the video game too, huh? But
one.
hopefully the speedster will get another chance down the road. As always, Warner Brothers always seems to be investing in a Batman as a new game is reportedly in the works at Rocksteady, though details are scarce on the project and likely will be for a number of years. However, a big piece James Gunn DC efforts revolves around cohesive universe across film, TV, and gaming, which hasn't really been done before there, and then says, yeah, new DC Universe video games in the works there. James Gunn's been with Rocksteady NetherRealm there. So I don't know, maybe we get another Injustice. Maybe I think that's pretty likely.
I think that's very likely because actually after Mortal Kombat 11, NetherRealm was originally going to do Injustice 3 next, but then because there was that whole period of time where, as far as just the overall company goes, Time Warner Discovery, they weren't sure. They were maybe going to sell off like the video game division to like maybe other companies or spin those companies off into their own things. So they ended up doing Mortal Kombat 1 because they were just like, all right, well, we don't know if this license is going to stay with us or not. Let's just go with Mortal Kombat, which we know we have access to for sure. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Injustice 3 is like definitely the next thing they do. They're probably working on it to some capacity already, kind of at the same time as they're doing DLC for MK1. And then for the Wonder Woman game, we've also heard some rumors. You know, it's not been officially like outright stated by like the studio, but heard some rumors about that having a very troubled development. They've kind of like they've restarted development at least once, and sounds like it hasn't come together super well. And they were trying to put live service elements in it at one point, and so like we'll see how that turns out. I certainly hope it's good, but it sounds like development's been kind of a mess. And then Rocksteady, like, yes, supposedly they're doing this Batman Beyond game, which I'd love to think would work out. And I think Batman Beyond would be cool because it's not exactly just Batman again. It is different.
Mm.
Setting would feel different. It is a different character. I think gameplay wise, there's a lot. You can have the rocket boots, big cyberpunk Blade Runner city. You can do a lot of really cool, very different things with that. Um, but coming off the Suicide Squad kills the Justice League game, how many people are going to trust what Rocksteady does next? Now, it's possible after the team leads like Sefton Hill and is it Clay Murphy? I forget the second guy's name. After those two leads, they're the ones who wanted to do this live service Suicide Squad project. They leave the studio. It's possible that the team there now is like, oh, thank God we can go back and make a single player game. But what typically happens at these game studios that are known for making single player games, and then they get to working on a live service project, is a lot of the talent leaves the studio because that's not what they're interested in working on. So I would be very curious to see who is even at Rocksteady anymore, like from what the team was 10 years ago when Arkham Knight came out. How many people are actually still there that know how to do these sorts of things? Or, so like it might not even be the same studio. And in that case, Suicide Squad might be the only game you can really base your expectations on. And who's going to be buying another game from them based on that?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. Because you look at their history, yeah, that was the last game because they had a big gap before
10
Suicide.
entire years.
Yeah, because Batman Arkham VR came out 2016, and then Suicide Kills the Justice League was 2024. You had
Yep,
a
yep.
big gap there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, people are always up for any Batman game, any Batman thing there. People always would be probably showing up for that. With that kind of going on.
And
But
being
yeah,
the underdog might serve them well. Like having the expectations against them might give them the opportunity to do something really impressive and surprise people. And I hope that's what happens. But I feel like I can't help but be skeptical at the same time.
yeah. And then if they're trying to do this big cohesive thing over film, TV, movies,
Right.
video games, can you actually make that where like, making a video game to purposely tie into the movies or shows and
Yeah, that's gonna be tricky. Like it's one thing to be like, you know, like somebody, okay, like as an example, someone like my dad, right, who is totally down to watch a movie. Total, you know what? He'll watch a TV show. He might not be like that into like, oh, I have to watch this show to watch this movie. Well, okay, I'll give it a chance. But someone like he's never in his life going to pick up a video game controller. He would try when I was a kid, and the camera would be either pointed directly up at the sky or directly up down at the ground. And he'd get frustrated within 5 minutes and wouldn't want to do it anymore. You're not getting there's a big chunk of the audience that you might have for a movie. Maybe what 30-40% of those people are like, okay, I'll watch the show too. How much of that audience is going to be willing to go play a video game? Like if you need to play it to understand or like to get the story or to know what's going on, how many of those people are actually going to go over there and do that? Because I don't think it's going to be that big a number. I really, really don't.
yeah. So to be, I mean, how important is a video game, like you said, going to be to the overall understanding what's going on in the DC universe? That would be a question there.
If you manage to really make it feel like a standalone thing that, maybe in the movie there's a wink and a nod if but you don't really have to do it, then maybe that works. But if you start having like important plot points unfold in a game and you have to go play that to what, like, I'm sorry, but and I play more video games than I engage with any other form of media. It's like my favorite style of thing of content to engage with. And I'm telling you, as someone who loves video games, this is not going to work if this is how the approach is.
Yeah. So we'll see with that. But yeah, a lot of big announcements. I know they just also said they fast tracked Creature Commando season 2. So
That's great news.
and we like Creature Commando. I like Creature Commandos. I liked it. Enjoyed, had a good time with it. So interesting. I don't know if it's ever going to get like a live action adaptation, but I liked it. Not saying it has to. I'm just saying I don't know. If it's
Right.
ever, but yeah. I know one of the characters, Frank Grillo, he is going to come over and he's going to play that character in live action because that's part of the cohesiveness that they've talked about and preached there. With the voice actors are also
He's
going to
going to
be
be
there.
in Superman and the second season of Peacemaker.
Yeah, so he's going to do that. So, yeah, yeah. So yeah, any other news that you could think of DC? I think that was pretty much most of it.
I think that was everything I remember seeing.
Yeah. So that was news on the DC universe there.